The forest had long stopped feeling safe. Rain fell in sharp sheets, soaking through Myra's thin jacket as she ran between trees that looked like the bones of giants. Every breath came out white and every step was agony. She had been running for 2 days without rest. Away from the hunters, away from her past, away from the ghosts that whispered her name. Keep moving, she told herself. If they catch you, it's over. Her boots splashed through mud, and for a moment she thought she heard laughter behind her. Not the human kind, but the cruel sound of wolves on the hunt. Branches whipped across her arms. The air smelled of pine and storm. Lightning flashed overhead, revealing a trail that twisted deeper into the forest, darker and older than anything made by human hands. And then she felt it. A faint pulse like a heartbeat inside her chest that wasn't her own. Mira slowed, clutching the small crystal pendant that hung around her neck. The eclipsed flame, her cursed gift, stirred whenever death was close. She found him in a shallow ravine. At first she thought it was just a shadow cast by the storm until the shadow moved. A massive black wolf sprawled in the mud, his fur soaked and glistening with blood. One of his legs was twisted at an impossible angle, and silver arrows protruded from his side. Spirits, Mira whispered, stumbling closer. Who did this to you? The wolf growled weakly, a sound that was more pain than threat. His eyes opened, not the amber of ordinary wolves, but a strange, luminous gray that seemed to hold the storm inside them. Mira froze. Every instinct screamed run. Wolves that size weren't natural. He was something older, stronger, the kind of creature her people whispered about in stories told around dying fires. But the eclipsed flame inside her was already burning. She could feel the pull, the desperate call of a dying life begging for one more chance. She shook her head. I can't help you. I'm sorry. She turned to leave. Then she saw the blood trail, long, winding, leading back toward the same direction the hunters had come from. Whoever had done this wasn't just hunting for food. They were hunting for power. She hesitated. Rain ran down her face like tears. You're not my problem, she muttered. But when she looked back at the wolf, she saw something in his eyes. Not rage, not fear. Recognition. As if he knew her. Her heart clenched. Oh, damn it all. She dropped to her knees beside him, placing trembling hands on his chest. The silver arrows hissed against her skin like fire. I can't promise this will work, she whispered. But it's better than dying alone. Closing her eyes, Mira reached inward, toward the light that had once been her pride and was now her curse. Heat spread from her palms, not a gentle warmth but a fierce, burning fire that filled her body until she thought it would tear her apart. Her vision blurred as silver light bled from her fingertips, wrapping around the wolf's wounds. The eclipsed flame demanded balance. To heal one life, it took another's energy, her own. Pain ripped through her, but she didn't stop. She could feel the poison fighting back, silver burning into her veins. The wolf's heartbeat faltered, then strengthened. Bones knit, torn flesh mended, and slowly, impossibly, color returned to his fur. Stay with me, she gasped. Just a little longer. The wolf's eyes opened again, clearer now, and she heard, not with her ears but somewhere deep inside her mind, a voice. You shouldn't have done that. Her breath caught. You can talk. Not talk, the voice said. Remember. The silver light flared once more, then faded. Myra's strength vanished with it. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was the wolf's gray eyes watching her, fierce, ancient, and filled with something she couldn't name. And then a whisper, low and rough, brushed her mind as she collapsed. When Mira woke, she wasn't in the forest. Soft warmth surrounded her, the scent of cedar smoke and pine in the air. She blinked against the flicker of firelight and tried to sit up, but the world spun violently. Her hands brushed something soft. Fur blankets. She was lying on a massive bed inside a stone-walled chamber that looked like it had been carved straight from the mountain itself. Her heart thudded. Where am I? The last thing she remembered was the wolf, the arrows, the storm. Good, a low voice said from the shadows. You're awake. Mira turned sharply toward the sound. A man stepped into the firelight. He was tall, too tall, with broad shoulders wrapped in a simple black shirt that did nothing to hide the strength beneath. His hair was black as midnight, his eyes the same strange gray as the wolf's. Her breath caught. You, she whispered. He smiled, slow and sharp like a blade being unsheathed. Me. Her pulse raced. Where am I? What happened to the wolf? He took a few steps closer and something primal in her brain screamed danger. Yet she couldn't look away. The wolf, he said softly, is standing right in front of you. Mira stared. That's not possible. It shouldn't be, he agreed, crouching beside the bed so they were eye level. But then neither should you. I don't know what you mean, she said quickly. His gaze held hers, calm but piercing. You do. You saved me with magic no healer should possess. Silver poisoning kills our kind in minutes. Yet here I am. She swallowed hard. I don't. You do, he interrupted, voice firm but quiet. Your hands burned with silver light. You used the eclipsed flame. The name made her blood run cold. No one had spoken it in years. How do you know about that? She demanded. Because, he said, standing to his full height, I've spent half my life searching for the woman who carries it. She stared up at him, confusion and fear battling inside her. Who are you? My name is Kaelin Duskbane, he said. Alpha of the Blood Moon Dominion. Mira froze. That name belonged to a ghost. A legend of the Northern Pax. Kaelin Duskbane, the Alpha who defied the High Council, slain for crimes so terrible that even his bloodline had been cursed. You're lying, she whispered. He's dead. He smiled faintly. He was. The room felt suddenly colder. You're telling me, Mira struggled to breathe. You were that wolf? The one who? Yes. Her heart pounded. Then I shouldn't have saved you. Perhaps not, he said quietly, but you did. He moved closer and she felt the weight of his presence, a mix of danger and something magnetic that made it impossible to look away. I owe you my life, Kaelin said. But you owe me an explanation. I don't owe you anything. Mira swung her legs off the bed but her strength failed. He caught her before she fell, his hands warm and steady on her arms. Careful, he murmured. Don't touch me, she hissed, jerking away. Kaelin let her go instantly, though his expression didn't change. You're not used to kindness, are you? She glared at him. I'm not used to lies. He tilted his head slightly, studying her the way predators study wounded prey. And yet, you lie to yourself every time you call what you did in that forest a mistake. I saved a stranger, she said through gritted teeth. That's all. He shook his head. You did more than that. You awakened something that was never meant to sleep. What are you talking about? He turned toward the fire, his shadow stretching long against the wall. There's a prophecy older than the packs themselves. It speaks of a healer born under an eclipsed moon, a woman whose power bridges life and death. She will either save our kind, or destroy it. Mira felt her stomach twist. You think that's me? I don't think, Kaelin said. I know. She laughed, short and bitter. You've made a mistake. I'm no prophecy. I'm just a curse that walks on two legs. He turned back to her and his eyes glowed faintly in the firelight. A curse wouldn't have brought me back. Only destiny could do that. I don't believe in destiny. He took a step closer and she swore the room itself seemed to pulse with his heartbeat. Then believe this. The bond between us isn't an accident. When you healed me, our souls intertwined. I felt it. You must have too. She shook her head, backing away until she hit the cold stone wall. You're wrong. Whatever you felt, it's nothing. I want no part of this. Mira, he said softly. You can deny the bond all you want, but the truth doesn't vanish because you fear it. His voice was low, almost gentle, but every word carried command. It made her angry, and afraid of how much part of her wanted to listen. You think you can just show up and tell me who I am? She snapped. You don't know me. A faint smile touched his lips. You're right. But I intend to. Stay away from me. He took a deliberate step back, raising his hands in surrender. As you wish. Rest. You'll need your strength. For what? Kaelin's eyes flicked toward the heavy door at the far end of the chamber. Because the ones who killed me will come for you next. You used power the world thought lost. They will hunt you now. And this time you won't survive without me. Before she could respond, he turned and walked toward the door. Wait, she called, but he didn't stop. At the threshold he paused, looking back over his shoulder. The firelight caught the faint mark glowing at the base of his throat, a twin to the shape beginning to burn against her wrist. Sleep, Mira, he said softly. Tomorrow we'll see whether fate made a mistake. The door closed behind him with a sound that echoed like thunder. Mira sank back against the wall, clutching her wrist. The mark pulsed once, twice, in rhythm with another heartbeat not her own. Outside, thunder rolled again. And somewhere deep in the mountains an ancient power stirred, watching the healer who had woken a dead king. Mira dreamed of running. In the dream, moonlight spilled across endless snow and a voice, low, rough, familiar, kept calling her name through the storm. Each time she turned, she saw a shadow larger than the trees, gray eyes burning through the dark. When she woke, her heart was racing, the echo of that voice still inside her mind. The fire in the stone hearth had burned down to embers. Dawn crept in through a narrow window, tinting the walls with pale gold. Mira pushed herself upright, every muscle aching, her wrist still throbbing where that strange mark pulsed faintly beneath her skin. The door creaked open. Kaelin entered quietly, carrying a tray of bread, dried meat, and a pot that smelled of herbs. He moved with the silent ease of someone who had spent years hunting through wild places. Without his armor and the storm's chaos, he seemed almost human. Almost. "You should eat," he said. "Healing drains you." Mira eyed the food suspiciously. "You think I'll just take whatever you give me? I wouldn't waste poison on the woman who dragged me back from death." A flicker of amusement softened his tone. "Besides, I prefer my enemies awake." "I'm not your enemy," she muttered, "but I'm not your anything else either." Kaelin set the tray on the table and leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You keep saying that as if you can undo what's already been done. What's that supposed to mean?" He nodded toward her wrist. "The mark. You've felt it by now, haven't you? That pull under your skin." She looked down. The faint glow was still there, a swirl of silver and shadow like ink beneath glass. "It's just a scar." "It's a bond," he said quietly. "When you used the eclipsed flame, our souls linked. I felt you inside my mind calling to me." "I didn't call anyone," Mira snapped. "I was trying to save your life, not tie myself to you. You can't separate the two." His voice gentled, the edge softening. "The flame doesn't heal, it restores balance. When you pulled me back from death, it had to anchor itself somewhere. It chose you and me." Mira stood, pacing away from him. "You're saying we're what? Connected? Bound forever? Until the balance breaks," he said. "Or one of us dies." He stopped pacing. "That's not comforting." "I didn't mean it to be." He gave a faint smile, humorless and tired. "I told you our kind never gets miracles for free." Silence settled between them. The only sound was the whisper of wind outside the high windows. Finally Mira asked, "Why were they hunting you?" Kaelin's expression darkened. "Because I was born wrong." She turned toward him. "Wrong?" "My bloodline carries something ancient," he said. "The dire blood, the first wolves before the packs were formed. Too strong, too wild. The council feared what we could become, so they destroyed us. I was the last. And they killed you for it." "They tried." His eyes glimmered faintly. "Until you brought me back." Myra's stomach tightened. "You make it sound like I started a war." Kaelin met her gaze. "You might have." Later that morning he led her through narrow corridors carved from black stone. The castle felt half alive, runes glowed faintly along the walls, pulsing like heartbeats. Outside, mist curled around the mountain peaks. The world below was a blur of forest and shadow. Mira kept her distance. "You really expect me to believe all this? Dire blood, prophecy, soul bonds." Kaelin didn't look back. "You'll believe when you have to." They reached a balcony overlooking the valley. From there she saw ruins, broken towers swallowed by trees, the remains of old battles. Smoke rose in the distance. "What happened down there?" she asked. "History," he said. "And fear." She studied his profile, the scars along his jaw, the faint silver shimmer in his eyes. "You talk like someone carrying a curse." "Maybe I am." He turned toward her. "But if the stories are true, so are you." "I never asked for this," she whispered. "Neither did I." His voice was soft, almost kind. "Yet here we are, the wolf who died and the girl who couldn't let him stay dead." Mira wanted to argue, to deny the pull in her chest that responded to his every word. Instead she looked away, blinking hard against the strange ache in her throat. "Whatever you think this bond means," she said, "I'll find a way to break it." Kalen's reply was calm but final. You can't break what the gods have already woven. That night Mira dreamed again. She stood in a forest of silver trees, moonlight dripping from their leaves. A voice whispered her name, not Kalen's this time but something older, heavier. Healer of death, your light wakes the sleeping king. What will you do when the dead remember you? She woke with a start, the mark on her wrist burning hot as fire. And somewhere beyond the castle walls, wolves howled. A chorus that sounded less like hunger, more like a warning. Morning came gray and cold. Mira hadn't slept after the dream. She sat by the window watching mist curl around the peaks, her thoughts tangled and heavy. When the door opened again, Kalen entered wearing a dark cloak, his expression grim. They found us, he said simply. Mira's heart jumped. Who? The High Council's hunters. The same ones who killed me. They followed the pulse of your magic. They'll reach the mountain by nightfall. Her breath quickened. Then we have to run. Kalen shook his head. Running won't help. They can track the eclipsed flame. It's like a beacon. Then what do you suggest? He met her eyes. You learn to fight. She almost laughed. I'm a healer, not a warrior. Not anymore. He tossed her a bundle of cloth. Inside lay a pair of fingerless gloves lined with faint runes. These will help you control the power when you call it. You can channel without burning yourself alive. Mira hesitated. You think I'll fight beside you? After everything? I think you'll fight for yourself, he said. Because they won't stop until you're ash. She looked down at the gloves, feeling their faint hum against her skin. Why help me at all? I thought you wanted this bond. Kalen's expression softened. I didn't ask for a bond built on fear. I owe you my life. Let me help you keep yours. Something in his tone, honest, almost weary, made her lower her guard for the first time. Fine, she said quietly. Show me. They trained in the courtyard beneath the open sky. Mist drifted between the stone arches, and the air smelled of rain and metal. Kalen moved with the precision of a predator, every motion smooth and deliberate. Mira followed clumsily at first, trying to mimic his stance. Stop thinking, he said. Feel the rhythm in your chest. That's the flame waiting. I'm trying, she snapped. It doesn't exactly come with instructions. Then listen. He stepped closer, placing a hand lightly over her heart. Right here. Don't force it. Let it rise. Mira closed her eyes. Heat stirred under her ribs, a spark spreading outward. The air around her shimmered. Silver light flickered across her fingers. Good, Kalen murmured. Now focus it. The glow brightened, forming a small halo in her palm. For a heartbeat it was beautiful, then it flared too bright. Pain lanced through her hand and the energy exploded outward, cracking the stones beneath their feet. Kalen caught her before she fell. Easy. I can't control it, she gasped. It's too strong. You can, he said firmly. It's part of you. Stop fighting it. She met his gaze, breath unsteady. If I let it loose, I'll hurt someone. He smiled faintly. Then aim at me. Mira blinked. What? I can take it. Trust me. I don't. Then learn to. He stepped back, opening his arms. Try again. Against every instinct she did. This time she drew the energy slower, shaping it, feeling its weight instead of pushing it away. When she released it, the light struck him like a silver wind. Kalen staggered but didn't fall. The glow wrapped around him, flickering harmlessly before fading. You see, he said, breathless but grinning. Balance. Mira stared at her hands. It didn't destroy anything. Because you chose not to. He straightened. Power obeys intention. Remember that. Something unspoken passed between them then. A flicker of trust, fragile but real. For a moment the tension eased. But the peace didn't last. As twilight deepened, the sound of horns echoed through the valley. Kalen's expression hardened. They're here. Mira's pulse quickened. The hunters. He nodded. Pack your things. We move before they surround the mountain. She grabbed the gloves and her cloak, following him down the winding stairs. The castle felt different now, alive, restless, its walls humming with old magic. Outside, the wind howled, carrying the scent of silver and smoke. They reached the stables where 2 horses waited. Kalen helped her mount. Stay close, he said. Don't stop no matter what you see. What about you? She asked. I'll be right behind you. They rode into the night, hoofs pounding over wet stone. Lightning split the clouds, illuminating the forest below. Through the flashes, Mira glimpsed movement, figures in silver armor, dozens of them closing in from all sides. Kaelin. I see them. Arrows hissed through the air. One struck the ground beside her horse, sending sparks flying. Kaelin wheeled his mount around, drawing a curved blade that gleamed black in the stormlight. Keep going, he shouted. But Mira couldn't leave him. She turned just in time to see one of the hunters raise a crossbow tipped with burning silver. The arrow flew straight toward Kaelin. Without thinking, she threw up her hand. The flame burst from her palm in a silver wave, shattering the arrow midair. The blast lit the forest like dawn. When the light faded, every hunter within sight had been thrown to the ground. Mira gasped, trembling. I didn't mean to. You saved us, Kaelin said. His voice was rough, half wonder, half fear. The remaining hunters fled into the trees, shouting warnings. Kaelin dismounted, scanning the dark. They'll be back with reinforcements. We have to reach the caves before dawn. Mira slid from her horse, still shaking. What were they going to do to me? Capture you, he said. Or worse. The council wants your power sealed or stolen. They believe the eclipsed flame belongs to them. Why? What do they want with it? Because it can raise the dead, he said grimly. And they've forgotten that some things are meant to stay buried. They reached a narrow pass where the mountain opened into a cave veiled by mist. Inside, faint crystals glowed along the walls. The air felt charged, humming with the same energy that lived under Myra's skin. Kaelin led her to a small fire pit and knelt to light it. When the flames caught, the glow painted his face in gold and shadow. We'll rest here until sunrise. Mira sank to the ground, exhaustion washing over her. You said the council killed you because of your bloodline. But what did you do to make them fear you so much? He didn't answer at once. The fire crackled softly. When I was Alpha, he said finally, I tried to end their rule. They called it rebellion. I called it mercy. They saw only the beast in my blood, not the man trying to keep peace. So they used silver and fire to burn my name from history. And now you're back, she murmured. Thanks to me. He looked at her, eyes reflecting the flames. Yes. Thanks to you. Silence stretched between them, filled with the rhythm of the storm outside. Mira studied his face, the lines of weariness there, the flicker of something almost human in his gaze. I don't know if I can trust you, she admitted. You don't have to, he said softly. Just stay alive long enough to decide. Mira nodded, pulling her cloak tighter. The mark on her wrist glowed faintly, answering the same rhythm as the one at his throat. She told herself it was only coincidence. But deep down she knew the bond was real. Outside, thunder rolled across the peaks. Inside the cave, two fugitives, one cursed to heal, one cursed to lead, sat in uneasy silence, each wondering whether the other was salvation or ruin. The cave felt different when Mira woke. It wasn't the cold that made her shiver this time, it was heat. At first she thought it came from the dying embers of their campfire. But when she looked down, her wrist glowed faintly, the mark pulsing with light like a heartbeat. Each throb sent a trail of warmth crawling up her arm and into her chest. She pressed her hand against it, but the light only grew stronger. Not again, she whispered. From across the cave, Kaelin stirred. He was sitting with his back against the wall, his cloak half slid from his shoulders, revealing the same faint light burning at the base of his throat. His eyes opened immediately, storm gray, sharp, as if he'd already been awake watching her. It's reacting, he said quietly. To what? Mira snapped, her voice trembling. It feels like it's burning through my skin. Kaelin rose smoothly and crossed the small space between them. Hold still. Don't touch me, she warned, stepping back. You said it's some kind of bond. Then fix it. I can't fix it, he said, calm but firm. It's part of you now. Of us. I don't want it to be. The glow on her wrist flared like a living flame, silver shot through with black veins of shadow. The air in the cave rippled as if the mountain itself held its breath. Kaelin reached out, gently taking her wrist despite her protest. His fingers were warm, grounding. Breathe with me. Let go. Breathe, Mira. His voice softened. If you fight it, the flame will fight back. She wanted to argue, to pull away, to scream, but something in his tone made her obey. She closed her eyes and forced air into her lungs. Slowly. The fire dimmed little by little, settling into a steady glow beneath her skin. When she opened her eyes again, Kaylin was still holding her wrist. Their marks glowed in perfect rhythm, 2 heartbeats in sync. "Why is it doing this?" she whispered. "It's the bond stabilizing," he said. "The flame responds to emotion. Fear, anger, pain. You burned too bright last night when you defended us. It's reminding you what you are." She pulled her wrist free. "And what's that supposed to mean?" "The eclipsed flame isn't just power, Mira. It's a bloodline. A living force that chooses its vessel. And it's chosen you." He stared at him, half angry, half afraid. "You sound like one of those priests who think destiny explains everything." He gave a faint smile. "Destiny is just another name for consequence. That's not comforting. Wasn't meant to be." They left the cave by noon. The storm had passed, leaving the mountain drenched and glistening under weak sunlight. Every step Mira took echoed through the valley, and every shadow seemed to whisper her name. Kaylin walked a few paces ahead, silent, alert. When she finally broke the quiet, her voice was small. "You said they'll keep hunting us because of the flame. Is that what they're afraid of? This mark?" "They're afraid of what it means," he said. "The eclipsed flame was lost centuries ago. The last recorded bearer destroyed half a kingdom before vanishing. The council swore if it ever returned they'd end it for good. So they'll kill me because I exist." He stopped and looked back at her, the wind tugging at his cloak. "They'll kill you because they don't understand you. There's a difference." She gave a bitter laugh. "Not much of one." By afternoon, they reached a high ridge overlooking a valley filled with fog. Kaylin stopped at the edge. "Down there," he said, pointing toward the faint outline of ruins. "The Oracle's temple. If anyone can tell us what this bond means, it's her." "An oracle?" Mira asked skeptically. "You mean a seer? I've had enough of prophecies for one lifetime." "Then consider this your second one." Kaylin led the way down the narrow path. The air grew colder, heavier. The fog thickened until Mira could barely see her own hands. Yet through the mist she felt something pulsing, a rhythm that matched the glow beneath her wrist. When they finally stepped into the temple clearing, the fog parted. A circular courtyard lay before them, paved with cracked stone etched in ancient runes. In the center stood a figure draped in gray robes, her hair white as frost. "You brought her," the woman said, her voice echoing as if spoken through time itself. Kaylin bowed his head. "She bears the mark." The oracle turned toward Mira. Though her face was lined with age, her eyes gleamed with silver light. "Show me." Mira hesitated, then lifted her wrist. The mark flared bright. The oracle stepped closer, studying it. "So it awakens again, the flame of the eclipsed moon." "I didn't ask for it," Mira said. "No one does," the oracle murmured. "The flame chooses not by desire but by need. The world is shifting. Shadows grow restless. The last bearer's death left a fracture that never healed." Kaylin's tone darkened. "You mean the devourer?" The oracle nodded slowly. "The ancient hunger. The void that consumes light. The same force that nearly ended our kind 1,000 years ago. It stirs once more." Mira frowned. "What does that have to do with me?" "Everything," the oracle said. "When the eclipsed flame awakens, it is because the darkness does too. You are the bridge, the only one who can seal it or set it free." "I don't want that kind of power." The oracle's expression softened. "You may not want it, child, but you have it. And now that the bond has formed, your fate is bound with his." Kaylin stiffened. "You mean?" "Yes," the oracle interrupted. "The flame and the dire blood are two halves of the same origin. Life and death, creation and destruction. Together they bring balance or chaos." Mir felt dizzy. "You're saying we're connected by prophecy?" "I'm saying you are the prophecy." The air seemed to hum. The mark on Myra's wrist burned again, echoing the words she could barely breathe. "I'm not anyone's prophecy. I'm just trying to survive." "Then survive wisely," the oracle said. "Because soon everyone will be forced to choose whether to kneel to the light or the shadow." The words lingered like a chill as thunder rolled in the distance. They left the temple in silence. The fog closed behind them like a living wall, hiding the oracle and her warnings. By dusk they'd reached a narrow ridge where the first stars began to shimmer. Mira walked ahead this time, needing distance from Kaelin and the echo of that one word, bond. Her thoughts were a mess. A prophecy? A bridge between life and death? It all sounded impossible. Yet the mark still burned on her skin and her power pulsed stronger with every hour. She turned suddenly. Did you know about this? Before you found me. Kaelin stopped a few feet away. I knew of the prophecy. I didn't know it was you. But you were looking for me, she pressed. Yes. So you used me, she said, voice sharp. You brought me here to prove some legend. He met her anger calmly. I brought you here to keep you alive. That's all. Liar. She stepped closer, fire rising in her chest. You keep saying I saved you, that I woke something in you, but every time you look at me I can't tell if you see me or the power I carry. Kaelin's eyes darkened, though his voice stayed steady. You think I don't see you? Mira, when you healed me you didn't just bring back my body. You pulled me out of the void itself. I remember your voice in the darkness calling me back. I see you more clearly than I see myself. His words hit like a blow she didn't know how to block. Don't say things like that, she whispered. Why not? Because you feel it too. I don't. He stepped forward. Then why can't you walk away? Mira opened her mouth but no words came. The mark on her wrist burned again, answering the heat in his gaze. I don't want this bond, she managed finally. Whatever it is, fate, magic, curse, I don't want it. I didn't ask for it either, Kaelin said quietly. But we can't change what's written in our blood. The only choice we have is whether to fight it or understand it. I'd rather break it. He gave a faint, weary smile. If it could be broken, I'd have freed us both. For a moment, silence. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of rain. Kaelin's voice lowered. Do you know what happens when a dire blood and a flame bearer reject the bond? She shook her head. The balance collapses, he said. The flame burns without restraint. The dire blood loses control. It ends in death or worse. So you're saying if I walk away one of us dies? He nodded once. That's what the old records say. Mira turned away, staring out at the dark valley below. You make it sound like we're trapped. Not trapped, he said. Entwined. I don't see the difference. He moved closer but kept his distance. The difference is choice. You can fear the bond or you can master it. And if I refuse? Then the council will kill you and the devourer will rise unchecked. And everything I've fought for dies anyway. Mira closed her eyes. You talk like I'm some weapon you can point at your enemies. No, he said, voice low. You're the only thing left that can save any of us. The way he said it, not as command but as confession, broke something in her. She turned to face him. And what about you, Kaelin? What do you want from me? He hesitated, then said, to protect you. Even if you never forgive me for it. Rain began to fall again, soft at first, then heavier. Kaelin took off his cloak and draped it over her shoulders. She didn't pull away this time. We'll head east tomorrow, he said. To the ruins beyond the forest. There are answers buried there and enemies waiting. Mira nodded, too tired to argue. I'll follow you for now. But if you ever try to use me. His faint smile returned. You'll burn me alive. I know. He turned to leave but paused when she spoke again. Kaelin. Yes. Back in the temple, she said quietly, when the oracle called us two halves of the same origin, did you believe her? He looked at her for a long moment, rain sliding down his face like silver threads. I believed her the moment you touched me in that forest, he said. Because death stopped listening to me and started listening to you. Then he walked away into the rain, leaving Mira staring after him, her wrist still glowing faintly beneath his cloak. And though she didn't want to admit it, part of her heart already knew. She wasn't running from Kaelin anymore. She was running from herself. The eastern forests were colder than Mira expected. Mist curled through the trees like restless spirits, and the ground crackled with frost under her boots. She pulled Kaelin's cloak tighter around her shoulders as they followed a narrow trail toward the ruins the oracle had spoken of. It had been 3 days since the temple. 3 days since she learned that her fate was tied to Kaelin's, that their bond might be the last thread holding the world in balance. She hadn't slept much since then. Each time she closed her eyes she saw flashes of light and shadow, silver fire clashing with endless darkness, and a voice whispering her name through it all. "Mira," Kalen said from ahead, his tone soft but alert. "Stay close." "I am," she muttered. "You don't have to keep saying it." "I'm used to leading soldiers," he said. "Old habits." "You mean soldiers who actually listened?" He gave a faint smile. "Something like that." They walked in silence for a while, the sound of running water growing nearer. When the trees finally opened, they found themselves before a wide clearing where the remains of an ancient structure stood half swallowed by vines and time. Broken columns jutted from the earth like ribs. At the center, a cracked stone altar glowed faintly with runes that pulsed like dying embers. Mira stopped at the edge of the clearing. "This is it." Kalen nodded. "The Oracle of Ashes. Older than the packs. Older than the council itself." "Then how do we wake her?" Mira asked, stepping closer to the altar. "She's already awake," said a voice from behind them. They turned sharply. A woman stood at the far side of the ruins, her robes tattered and streaked with soot. Her eyes gleamed faintly gold like molten metal beneath ash. Her hair was dark, streaked with silver, and her presence filled the clearing like the echo of thunder. "Who are you?" Mira asked, instinctively raising a hand toward her mark. The woman smiled faintly. "Names are for the living. I am what remains when names burn away." Kalen bowed slightly. "Oracle. You shouldn't have come here, Direblood," she said. "The flame you carry beside you will draw the hungry." Mira frowned. "Hungry? The dead who never slept," the oracle murmured. "The ones your magic touched and left wanting." Her words sent a chill down Myra's spine. "I didn't mean to wake anything." "No one ever does," the oracle said, stepping closer. "But every act of healing is also an act of defiance. You defied death itself, child. Death does not forget that easily." Myra's voice trembled. "Then what am I supposed to do?" "Understand what you are," the oracle said. "And accept what he is." Myra's gaze flicked toward Kalen. He stood silent, his expression unreadable. "The eclipsed flame cannot exist without its shadow," the oracle continued. "He is that shadow, the other half. If you reject him, the balance will break and the world will burn from both ends." "I don't want this bond," Mira said. "I never did." The oracle's eyes softened. "And yet it is yours. The question is not whether you want it, but whether you will master it before it consumes you both." Kalen finally spoke. "We came for answers. Not riddles." The oracle turned to him. "Then listen well, Wolf. The bond between you is not only power. It is prophecy. When the flame meets the void, the devourer will wake. One will stand against it. One will fall. And the survivor will decide the fate of all creation." Mira stared at her. "One of us has to die." The oracle did not answer. She only raised a hand and touched Myra's wrist. The mark flared painfully bright. Visions flooded Myra's mind. Fire raining from the sky, wolves turning to ash, Kalen standing on a battlefield of light and shadow, reaching for her as the world shattered around them. She gasped and stumbled back. Kalen caught her, steadying her as the oracle's voice echoed through the ruins. "Seek the grove of moons before the red night falls. There the truth will find you." When Mira looked up, the oracle was gone. Only ash drifted where she had stood. They left the ruins in silence. The forest felt heavier now, as if listening. Finally Mira broke the quiet. She said, "One of us will die." Kalen didn't look at her. "Prophecies don't always mean what they sound like." "You don't believe that?" He hesitated. "I believe fate gives warnings, not promises." "That sounds like something a liar would say," she muttered. He glanced at her, half smiling despite the tension. "Then maybe I'm lying to both of us." She wanted to laugh, but the ache in her chest wouldn't let her. The moon rose red that night. They had stopped near the edge of an abandoned village at the forest's border. The air was strange, too still, too heavy. The ruins of old houses leaned under the crimson light, their windows dark and hollow. "This place feels wrong," Mira whispered. "It was burned during the wars," Kalen said. "No one's lived here for decades." "Then why do I hear voices?" He turned sharply. "What voices?" She pointed toward the well at the center of the ruins. "Whispers. Calling my name." Kalen's expression hardened. "Stay here." But before he could move, the wind shifted. and the whispers became screams. The ground around the well cracked open, spilling a dark mist that twisted into shapes that weren't quite human. Eyes glowed in the fog, pale, endless, hungry. "The dead," Kalen said, drawing his blade. "They found us." The creatures surged forward, moving like smoke given life. Mira stumbled back as Kalen slashed through the first of them. His blade met resistance that wasn't flesh but something colder, heavier. Each strike tore the mist apart, but it always reformed. Mira raised her hands, her wrist burning bright. "What do I do?" "Call the flame," he shouted. "I'll kill everything if I lose control." "You won't," he said, meeting her eyes even in the chaos. "Because I'm here." Something in his voice steadied her. She took a deep breath, letting the fire rise through her chest. Silver light burst from her hands, washing across the ruins like dawn breaking through night. The creatures shrieked as the light touched them, unraveling into sparks. But the light didn't stop there. It spread outward, climbing the sky, catching the red moon overhead. For a heartbeat, the whole world glowed silver. Then the ground trembled. "Mira!" Kalen shouted, running to her. "You have to stop." "I can't," she cried. The energy poured out of her uncontrollably, tearing through stone and sky alike. Pain lanced through her arm. She fell to her knees, the mark blazing like fire. Kalen dropped beside her, gripping her shoulders. "Look at me," he said. "Focus on my voice." Her vision blurred, but she could still hear him, steady, unyielding. "You're not alone," he said. "Breathe with me. Remember who you are." She forced air into her lungs, trying to match his rhythm. Slowly the torrent began to subside. The light dimmed until only embers danced around them. When it was over, the ruins were silent. The red moon still hung above, but the whispers had stopped. The ground was littered with ash. Mira slumped forward, exhausted. Kalen caught her before she hit the ground. "You did it," he said quietly. "You controlled it." "I almost didn't," she murmured, her voice weak. "If you hadn't been here." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "I told you you're not alone." She opened her eyes, meeting his. "You keep saying that like you mean it." "I do," he said simply. "Even if you never believe me." He carried her to the remains of a house nearby and laid her gently on what was left of a bed frame. She closed her eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. The air still felt charged, as if the world itself had changed. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft. "Those creatures, they were drawn to me, weren't they?" "Yes," Kalen said. "The oracle warned us. The dead remember your touch. Some crave it. Some hate it. So I've made enemies on both sides of the grave," she said bitterly. He didn't answer. Instead, he looked toward the horizon, where faint silver light flickered beneath the blood-red moon. "The Grove of Moons," he said. "It's awake." "What is it?" she asked. "The place where the first flame-bearer was born. If we reach it before dawn, we might find what the oracle meant, truth or salvation. And if we don't?" He looked back at her, his expression unreadable. "Then the dead won't be the only ones hunting us." They left the village before dawn, the red moon fading behind clouds. The forest stretched ahead, silent and endless. Mira walked beside him, her body weary but her spirit burning brighter than before. As they passed the tree-line, she glanced at Kalen. "Back there, when I lost control, I saw something. A vision." "What kind of vision?" "Fire. Wolves turning to ash. You standing alone under the blood moon." It felt like a warning. Kalen didn't answer right away. "Maybe it was," he said finally. "Or maybe it was the future showing us what we have to change." Mira frowned. "You really think we can change fate?" He gave a small, crooked smile. "I think we already have. You're alive. I'm alive. That's already 2 miracles too many." He almost smiled back. "You're impossible." "Maybe," he said, "but I'm yours to deal with now." She rolled her eyes but didn't argue. For once, the silence between them felt almost peaceful. The sun began to rise behind the clouds, casting pale light through the trees. The bond marks on their skin glowed faintly in response. Not burning this time, but warm, alive, as if acknowledging the fragile trust beginning to form between them. And somewhere far away, in the depths of shadow, a pair of unseen eyes opened. A voice like thunder whispered through the wind. "The flame burns again. The devourer wakes." The Grove of Moons was nothing like Mira imagined. It wasn't a forest, not really. It was a wide hollow surrounded by ancient trees whose trunks glowed faintly silver under the night sky. Moonlight poured through gaps in the canopy, striking the ground in patterns that looked almost deliberate, like runes drawn by the heavens. At the center stood a great stone ring half buried in vines, its surface etched with symbols older than language. The air was heavy with magic, and the faint hum of energy pulsed through the soil beneath their feet. Mira stepped cautiously toward the ring. "This is it." Kaelin nodded. "The grove marks the birthplace of the first flame-bearer. The last time it awoke, the world nearly tore itself apart." "That's reassuring," she muttered. He smiled faintly. "You asked for honesty." She crouched by the runes, brushing away moss. Beneath it she found words carved deep into the stone, flowing, circular, written in a language she didn't know but somehow understood. "Where light meets shadow, balance binds the end to the beginning." She whispered the words aloud. The symbols flickered, responding to her voice. For a moment the grove itself seemed to breathe. Then the mark on her wrist burned. "Mira," Kaelin warned, stepping closer. "Stop." "I didn't do anything," she said through clenched teeth, but the light grew stronger, rising from her skin like mist. The same glow spread across the stone ring. The air shimmered, and from the center of the circle rose a faint image. A woman cloaked in flame and shadow. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Healer of death, the bridge has been reforged." Myra's pulse quickened. "Who are you?" "The first," the spirit said. "The one who bore the flame before you." "What do you want from me?" "To warn you." The spirit's form flickered. "The dire blood beside you hides the reason he was truly slain. His death was no punishment, it was a bargain." Mira turned sharply toward Kaelin. "What is she talking about?" Kaelin's jaw tightened. "Don't listen to her. Spirits feed on doubt." But the spirit's words continued to echo. "He swore his loyalty to the High Council to save his pack. They demanded a price, your life, once the flame awoke." Mira felt her heart stop. "That's a lie." Kaelin's eyes darkened. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is," she shouted. "Tell me what deal you made." He stepped closer, his expression torn between anger and guilt. "I didn't know it would be you, Mira. The prophecy said only that a healer with silver fire would come. They ordered me to find her, to bring her to them before the devourer could claim her power." "So you were never trying to protect me," she whispered. "You were following orders." "I was trying to protect everyone." His voice cracked slightly. "If the council gets their hands on you, they'll drain your power to seal the realms. It would destroy you, but it might save the world." "And you were going to let them?" she asked, her voice trembling. "After everything? After pretending to care?" "I never pretended," he said quietly. "I care more than I should." Her throat ached. "That doesn't make this better." "Mira." She stepped back, shaking her head. "Don't. Just don't. I trusted you." The spirit's light began to fade, but her last words lingered in the air like smoke. "Trust is the first wound. Only truth can close it." Then the grove fell silent. Mira turned away, unable to look at him. The glow on her wrist dimmed, but the ache in her chest only deepened. When she finally spoke, her voice was cold. "You brought me here to finish your mission. But I won't be anyone's weapon." "I never wanted that," Kaelin said. "The council will come whether I obey or not. If you run, they'll burn every pack to find you." "Then let them try," she said, walking toward the forest. "I'd rather be hunted than used." He reached out, but she pulled free. "Don't follow me. Mira. Stay away." And for the first time since she met him, she meant it. Night deepened into storm. By the time Mira stopped running, she was miles from the grove. Rain drenched her hair and cloak, and thunder rolled through the mountains like war drums. She found shelter beneath a crumbling archway, an old watchtower swallowed by ivy. Her heart felt heavier than the storm around her. Kaelin's words replayed in her mind. "I didn't know it would be you." Somehow that hurt more than betrayal itself. She pressed her wrist against her chest, feeling the faint pulse of the mark beneath her skin. The bond still thrummed softly, alive, no matter how much she wanted to tear it out. "Why can't you just leave me alone?" she whispered. As if in answer, the air shifted. Shadows thickened, coiling around the edges of the tower. From the darkness, voices whispered, 1,000 murmurs overlapping, echoing through her thoughts. Flame bear, come to us. Her breath caught. No. The shadows twisted, forming vague shapes. Faces, claws, hollow eyes. She stepped back, her hand rising instinctively. The mark flared, casting light through the ruins. The shadows recoiled, hissing like smoke. Then a voice she knew too well broke through the storm. Mira. Kalen's silhouette appeared through the rain, his cloak torn, his eyes bright even in the dark. Stay back, she shouted. I mean it. He stopped a few paces away. You're surrounded by revenants. You can't face them alone. I don't need your help. Yes you do, he said. And I'm not leaving you. The shadows surged again, closing in. Kalen drew his blade, slashing through them. Each strike left streaks of light in the rain, but more kept forming. They're feeding off your anger, he called out. They want the flame. Then let them have it, she cried, raising both hands. The silver fire roared from her palms, flooding the tower with blinding light. The revenants screamed and vanished, but the power didn't stop. It poured out of her in waves, consuming everything around her. Kalen ran forward, grabbing her shoulders. Mira. Stop. I can't. Yes you can. Look at me. She tried, but her vision blurred. The world was silver fire and thunder. She could feel the bond between them pulsing wildly, pulling her power into him. For a moment the storm seemed to bend around them, their marks glowing brighter than lightning. Let it go, he said, his voice barely audible through the chaos. Let it flow through me. I'll hurt you, she gasped. Then hurt me, he said. Better me than you. Something in his tone cut through the storm inside her. She released the breath she'd been holding, and the energy collapsed, fading into silence. When she opened her eyes, they were both on their knees in the mud, the rain washing silver light from their skin. Kalen's blade lay shattered beside him. Myra's chest ached. Why would you do that? Because, he said softly, I'd rather be burned by you than lose you. Her throat tightened. You don't get to say things like that after what you did. I know, he said, meeting her gaze. But I meant it. She wanted to scream, to run, to cry, but the exhaustion was too heavy. She slumped forward, resting her forehead against his shoulder. He didn't move, didn't speak, only breathed with her as the rain fell around them. Finally she whispered, was any of it real? Or were you just following orders the whole time? He hesitated before answering. It started as duty, he said. But then I met you. And nothing's been the same since. She lifted her head, eyes searching his. Then prove it. How? Tell me the truth. Everything. He took a slow breath. When I was Alpha, I saw the council for what they really were, terrified of losing control. They made me swear allegiance, promising to spare my pack if I served. When they killed me, I thought it was over. But death, it's not what I expected. There were voices there waiting. They offered me a chance to return, to fix what I couldn't before. All they wanted was a promise. What promise? She asked. That I'd bring them the flame when it returned. And you agreed. I did, he said, guilt flickering in his eyes. But I never planned to give you to them. I thought I could find another way, use the bond to protect you. You mean control me, she said bitterly. No, he said, shaking his head. To keep them from using you. Mira looked away, her heart aching. And now? Now I'd rather defy them again, even if it kills me. She wanted to believe him. She really did. But trust didn't come easy when the ground kept shifting beneath her feet. Lightning flashed across the sky, revealing the ruined valley below them. The grove's silver glow was gone, burned out. Only darkness remained. What happens now? She asked quietly. Kalen followed her gaze. Now the council knows where we are. They'll come soon. And the devourer? He looked at her, his voice grave. If the grove's power is gone, it's already stirring. A cold wind swept through the tower, carrying whispers that didn't belong to either of them. Mira felt it then, the subtle change in the air, like the world itself had drawn a breath it wasn't meant to take. She stood, pulling her cloak tighter. Then we stop running. We find out what this bond really is before it destroys everything. Kalen rose beside her. You're sure? No, she said. But I'm tired of being afraid. For the first time in days, a faint smile touched his lips. Then we face it together. She met his eyes, the rain glistening on both their skin. Together, she echoed softly, though a part of her heart still whispered a warning. Because trust, once cracked, never healed the same way again. The storm had not stopped. Thunder still rolled across the mountains when dawn finally broke, pale and cold. Mira and Kaelin stood at the edge of the ruined tower, watching the light struggle to push through the clouds. The world felt fragile, like a painting cracked by age. Neither of them had spoken since the night before. The silence between them was sharp, filled with all the things they could not say. Finally, Kaelin turned toward her. "We can't stay here." "Then where do we go?" she asked. "The council is coming. The grove is gone. The oracle is ashes." He hesitated, as if choosing his words carefully. "There's one place left. The cradle of stars. It's where the flame was first born." Mira frowned. "You mean another ruin? Another prophecy?" "Maybe. Or maybe it's where we finally learn how to stop what's coming." She looked down at her wrist. The mark was darker now, no longer just silver but shot through with streaks of black like veins of shadow. "Something's changing," she said quietly. "It doesn't hurt anymore. It feels alive." Kaelin's eyes narrowed. "Alive how? Like it's watching me. Waiting." He didn't answer. His expression was thoughtful, but underneath it, worry flickered. They began their journey north. The forest gave way to cliffs and snowfields. The air grew thinner, each breath colder than the last. As they climbed, Mira noticed strange signs. The earth splitting in unnatural patterns, the air thick with whispers. Even the sky seemed wrong, the sun faint and pale behind a thin veil of mist. By the third day the whispers had grown louder. Sometimes she thought she heard her own name. Sometimes she heard Kaelin's. On the fourth night they stopped beside a frozen stream. Kaelin built a fire, though the flames burned weakly in the thin air. Mira sat opposite him, her cloak wrapped tight. "You're quiet," he said. "I'm thinking." "About what?" "About whether I'm becoming something else." He looked up, his gray eyes steady. "You're still you." "Am I?" she asked. "The oracle said I was the bridge. What if I'm not supposed to stay human? What if this power is—" she hesitated, her voice breaking. "Changing me into something I can't come back from?" Kaelin stared into the fire. "I've seen power change people," he said softly. "It doesn't make them monsters. Fear does." "You sound sure." "I'm not," he admitted. "But I'd rather believe in you than the fear." She watched the firelight dance across his face, softening the edges of his usual steel. For a moment she forgot the weight of destiny pressing on her. But then the mark on her wrist began to burn again, hotter, brighter than before. She gasped, clutching her arm. The silver light spilled through her fingers, flaring against the snow. Kaelin was on his feet in an instant. "Mira." "It's happening again," she said, her voice shaking. "I can't stop it." The fire blew out. The world went white. Light and shadow twisted together, swirling around her. She felt weightless, as if caught between two worlds. Her heart raced, her blood singing with energy too vast to contain. Images flashed before her eyes. Flames consuming forests, oceans boiling, the moon cracking like glass. And through it all, one voice rose above the chaos. A voice older than time itself. "Child of flame. The balance is breaking." She fell to her knees, clutching her head. "Stop it. Stop." Kaelin grabbed her shoulders, shouting her name, but she barely heard him. The ground trembled beneath them, cracks spreading through the ice like spiderwebs. Light poured from the fissures, searing and beautiful. Then as suddenly as it began, it stopped. When Mira opened her eyes, she was standing, not by the fire but in a vast plain of silver sand beneath a black sky. Stars hung low, close enough to touch. The air was still and Kaelin was nowhere in sight. A voice echoed behind her. "Welcome to the threshold." She turned. The same woman from her earlier vision, the first flame-bearer, stood among the stars, her form half fire, half shadow. "Where am I?" Mira whispered. "Between," the spirit said. "The realm of balance. Few can cross here while alive." "What do you want from me?" "To show you the truth." The spirit raised a hand and the stars shifted, forming visions in the air. She saw Kaelin kneeling before the High Council, blood on his hands. Saw the moment of his death, a silver blade driven through his heart. Then darkness and a shape like smoke offering him a second life. He was bound to them, Mira murmured. Even before he found me. Yes, the spirit said. But his heart defied them. That is why your bond exists. Not by command, but by choice. Mira frowned. Then why do I feel like I'm losing myself? Because the flame is awakening. It does not serve mortals. It remembers the first world, the one that burned so the rest could live. When it rises again, all creation will be tested. What am I supposed to do? Choose, the spirit said simply. Power is never evil until it is used without will. The devourer rises because balance demands an answer. The stars around them flickered. The spirit began to fade. Your time is short. Wake before the shadow claims him. Claims who? Mira started, but the vision broke apart. She gasped awake on the frozen ground. The fire was out. The snow was blackened in a perfect circle around her. Kalen lay unconscious a few feet away. She scrambled to his side. Kalen. His pulse was weak but steady. When she touched his chest, her mark flared, and to her horror, the same light shimmered faintly beneath his skin. Her power had spilled into him. Oh no, she whispered. What did I do? By morning the storm had passed, but the world didn't feel the same. The air was too still. The mountains too quiet. Kalen woke slowly, his eyes brighter than before, paler, almost silver. When he sat up, the ground beneath his hands steamed faintly. Mira knelt nearby, her cloak drawn tight. She'd been awake all night, watching him, waiting for him to open his eyes. You're alive, she said softly. He looked around, confused. What happened? You collapsed. The flame, my power, it reacted. I think I passed part of it to you. Kalen stared at his hands. The faint glow beneath his skin pulsed once, then faded. That's impossible. Tell that to the light coming out of you. He managed a weak laugh, but it didn't reach his eyes. You shouldn't have stayed that close when you lost control. I wasn't going to leave you, she said. Not again. Something in her voice silenced him. He looked at her for a long moment, then said quietly, Thank you. They packed and continued north, but the path felt different now. Wherever they walked, the world seemed to change behind them. The air rippling, trees bending toward them as though drawn to the energy between their marks. Even the sky had taken on a faint silver hue. By nightfall, they reached a narrow ravine that opened into a frozen valley. But what waited beyond took Myra's breath away. The valley floor was cracked open, a jagged scar stretching miles across the earth. From within the fissure glowed faint red light, pulsing like the heartbeat of something buried deep below. The world is bleeding, Mira whispered. Kalen knelt, touching the ground. The light reacted to him, flaring brighter. The boundary between realms, he said. It's breaking. The devourer, she said, remembering the spirit's warning. It's close, isn't it? He nodded grimly. Closer than ever. A tremor shook the ground. Distantly, something roared, a sound so deep it made her bones vibrate. They took shelter in a nearby cave. Inside, faint veins of silver light ran through the rock, illuminating the space with soft glow. Mira sat by the entrance, staring out at the crimson crack in the distance. Do you ever wonder, she said quietly, what would have happened if we'd never met? Kalen leaned against the wall behind her. The world would still be falling apart, he said. But I wouldn't have had a reason to fight it. She smiled faintly. You really think words like that fix everything? No, he said. But they're the only truth I have left. The cave rumbled faintly. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Mira turned toward him. The spirit told me the flame isn't just magic. It's memory. It remembers what came before, what it lost. What does that mean? I don't know, she admitted. But I think it wants to finish what it started. Before Kalen could reply, the ground split again outside. A burst of crimson light filled the valley, followed by a shockwave that sent shards of rock cascading around them. Mira stumbled. Kalen caught her, pulling her back as part of the cave mouth collapsed. When the tremor faded, the light outside had changed. It wasn't red anymore but black. A thick, swirling darkness seeped from the crack, climbing toward the sky like smoke. Kalen's grip tightened on her arm. It's awake. The shadows moved with purpose, rolling and twisting until they formed something like a shape. Massive, formless, its eyes glowing faintly gold. A voice like thunder rolled through the valley. Child of flame, you defied the end. Now you will become it. Mira froze. It knows me. Kaelin stepped in front of her, blade drawn though it trembled faintly in his hand. Stay behind me. The voice laughed, a sound that wasn't laughter but the breaking of mountains. You cannot protect what was never yours to claim, Wolf. Mira felt the bond between them ignite, the mark on her wrist burning so hot she thought it would sear through her skin. She reached for his arm. If we fight it, we fight together. He looked back at her and for a heartbeat she saw fear, real human fear, in his eyes. Then hold nothing back. She nodded. The light within her surged, brighter than ever before. The eclipsed flame rose, wrapping her in silver fire that didn't burn but hummed with power. Kaelin's form glowed faintly beside her, his dire blood awakening in response. The darkness hesitated as if sensing something unexpected. Mira lifted her hands. You wanted the flame, she whispered. Then face it. The valley erupted in light. When it cleared, the shadow was gone, but so was the crack. Mira collapsed, gasping for breath. The mark on her wrist had faded to gray. Kaelin knelt beside her, his voice barely audible over the ringing in her ears. You did it, he said. She shook her head weakly. No. It's not gone. It's waiting. Outside, the night sky flickered with strange colors, as if the stars themselves were being rearranged. The world isn't ending, Kaelin said softly. It's changing. Mira closed her eyes, her voice a whisper. Then we'd better change with it. The sky had not returned to normal. 3 days after the light and darkness collided in the valley, the stars still burned the wrong colors, gold bleeding into silver, as if the heavens themselves were unsure which world they belonged to. Kaelin stood alone on the ridge overlooking the frozen landscape below. The wind bit through his cloak but he barely felt it. Every breath came out as mist, every thought heavier than the one before. He remembered flashes. Myra's voice shouting his name, the valley splitting, the flame pouring from her like living light. Then nothing. Now he could feel it in his blood. The power she had shared with him pulsed inside his chest, foreign and alive. When he flexed his hands, faint trails of light shimmered beneath his skin. It wasn't strength, it was hunger. He closed his eyes and forced his breathing steady. Control it. Don't let it control you. Mira, he murmured half to himself. What have you done to me? He didn't mean it in anger, only fear. Because each night since the battle he'd dreamed of fire and shadow devouring one another. And in the center of it stood Mira, eyes glowing like a dying sun, whispering words he couldn't remember upon waking. He turned as she approached through the snow, her hood drawn low. The world around her shimmered faintly, not light, not heat, but presence. The flame had changed her too. Her skin held a faint silver glow beneath the surface, as though starlight pulsed in her veins. You shouldn't be out here, she said. You haven't slept. He smiled faintly. Neither have you. Dreams don't count as sleep. He studied her. You're still hearing them, aren't you? She hesitated. The voices? Yes. The souls I've healed, they're not gone. They whisper. Some thank me, others don't. The world's quieter without them, he said softly. She gave a humorless laugh. You call this quiet? For a moment they just stood there, the wind tugging at their cloaks. Then Kaelin spoke, voice low. I felt it that night, the flame. It went through me. I thought it was killing me, but it wasn't. It was changing me. How? She asked. He opened his palm. A flicker of silver light sparked to life there, unbidden. It wasn't like her fire. His was darker, edged with shadows. Mira took a step back. That's your power, he finished quietly. Or a reflection of it. I'm not sure anymore. You shouldn't be able to do that. Tell that to the thing living in my chest, he said, his smile bitter. I think when you saved me you gave me more than you meant to. The light faded from his palm, leaving faint scorch marks in the snow. Myra's voice softened. You saved me too. The bond didn't just link us, it shared everything. My power, your curse. We carry both now. Kaelin's gaze dropped to the ground. Then maybe I was right to fear it. She reached out, touching his arm gently. Fear doesn't mean failure, Kaelin. It means you still care what happens. He met her eyes, the storm in his chest quieting for just a heartbeat. Then tell me what happens next, he said. She looked away, toward the horizon where the cracked valley glowed faintly red beneath the snow. I don't know, she admitted. But I think the flame wants to show me. That night Mira couldn't sleep. She sat by the fire, staring into the flames as they shifted through shades of silver and gold. The whispers in her head had grown louder since the battle. Faint, layered voices speaking in fragments she could barely understand. The bridge. The threshold. The healer of death. She pressed her hands against her temples. Be quiet, she whispered. The voices fell silent. Then softly one spoke, clearer than the rest. If you wish to understand, you must come to where the living and the lost meet. She looked up. Beyond the firelight, the shadows of the valley pulsed faintly with silver. Her decision came without thought. She rose, wrapping her cloak around her, and slipped into the night. Kaelin didn't wake when she left. Or at least she thought he didn't. The valley was eerily still. Snow glowed faintly beneath the fractured moonlight, and the air hummed with quiet energy. Mira followed the whispers until she reached the edge of the great fissure where the world had cracked open. The red glow was gone now, replaced by soft, shifting light that seemed to breathe. As she approached, the mark on her wrist began to pulse. You called me, she said aloud. I'm here. The light deepened and the world tilted. In a blink she was standing in another place entirely. The air was neither cold nor warm. The sky was a vast twilight of violet and silver. Beneath her feet stretched an endless plain of mist, and within it moved faint shapes, human, animal, and something in between. Spirits. Thousands of them. Myra's breath caught. The realm between life and death. A figure stepped from the mist. It was Fessus. The first wolf she had ever healed, the one who had turned monstrous and cost her everything. His eyes were softer now, unburdened by rage. Mira, he said. His voice carried no echo, only peace. She froze. You're dead. He smiled sadly. And yet you found me. Tears stung her eyes. I didn't mean to. What happened to you, to the others? He lifted a hand, silencing her gently. You saved me. You just didn't know the cost. You carried me when I should have rested. That was never your fault. Her throat tightened. Then why are you here? To help you understand. He gestured to the mist around them. Every soul you've touched lingers here, bound to you by the flame. You're not a destroyer, Mira. You are a bridge. But bridges must learn to bear the weight they carry. She glanced around, the mist glowing brighter as the souls gathered closer. Not in anger but in reverence. They follow me. They believe in you, Fessus said. Even the ones who cursed you once. I don't deserve that. Deserve has nothing to do with destiny, he said softly. You're here because the world is breaking. The flame needs a vessel who remembers both mercy and wrath. You are that vessel. Mira felt the power stir inside her chest, calm this time like the steady beat of a drum. Then what am I supposed to do with it? Choose how it's used, he said simply. Because soon others will try to claim it. Before she could ask what he meant, the mist began to tremble. A distant sound, thunder or perhaps something deeper, rolled through the twilight. The shapes around her wavered, their forms flickering. Fessus's expression changed. They found you. Who? The council's seers. Their magic reaches even here. You must go back before they drag you out by force. Myra's heart raced. Fessus, wait. He smiled one last time. You have more power than any of us ever dreamed. But don't let their fear define you. Remember, you heal death itself. Then the world shattered. Mira gasped as she fell back into her body, the valley's cold air slamming into her lungs. The mark on her wrist burned like a star. Mira. Kaelin was there, running toward her. His eyes glowed faintly silver again, wild with worry. Where were you? I woke and you were gone. I saw them, she said, still breathless. The souls I healed, they're still with me. They're part of the flame. He grabbed her shoulders. You vanished for hours. I thought. He broke off, shaking his head. What did you see? She met his gaze. Truth. The council isn't trying to contain the flame. They're trying to own it. They want to use it to seal the realms forever, no matter how many lives it costs. Kaelin's jaw tightened. Then we stop them. She nodded slowly. And if we can't? Then we burn the world that would destroy you, he said without hesitation. Mira almost smiled. You're getting better at sounding heroic. He arched a brow. I thought you didn't believe in heroes. I don't, she said, her eyes gleaming faintly with silver light. But I believe in balance. And maybe, in you. For a long moment neither of them moved. The wind carried the faint echo of whispers again, but this time they didn't sound like warning. They sounded like hope. Far in the distance, a low tremor rippled through the ground, the world's slow heartbeat reminding them that time was running short. Kaelin looked toward the horizon. Whatever's coming, we face it together. Mira turned her gaze to the stars, their fractured light reflecting in her eyes. Together, she echoed softly. And as the wind rose around them, silver and shadow twined through the sky, the first sign that the flame and the dire blood were no longer just surviving. They were becoming something new. The air shimmered like heat over stone as dawn broke across the northern cliffs. Mira stood at the edge of the world, her cloak billowing behind her, the mark on her wrist glowing faintly in the rising light. The valley below, once fractured and red, now glowed silver, a living scar where the flame had remade the earth. Frost and fire existed side by side, neither extinguishing the other. It was beautiful and terrifying. Kaelin approached quietly, boots crunching against the frozen ground. You've been up all night again. I don't sleep much anymore, she said, not turning. The flame doesn't rest. It remembers too much. He came to stand beside her, eyes following the strange light below. It remembers for a reason. Maybe it's trying to teach you something. She smiled faintly. Or warn me. You think it's a curse. I think it's a mirror, she said softly. It shows me everything I don't want to see. My fear. My guilt. What I could become if I let go. Kaelin studied her in silence. The woman before him was no longer the frightened exile he'd met in the forest. Her presence was steady, her power no longer something wild but something sovereign, restrained by will, not weakness. You've changed, he said quietly. So have you, she replied. Your eyes, they've turned silver. He looked away. Maybe your power's rubbing off on me. Or maybe the bond's growing stronger, she murmured. I feel you even when you're not near. Do you want that to stop? She hesitated. No, she said honestly. But it scares me. Kaelin's tone gentled. Then learn from the fear. It's what keeps power human. Mira looked at him, the morning light painting him in gold and gray. You sound like someone who's been both. He smiled faintly. Maybe I have. Later that day they reached the mouth of an ancient crater, a hollowed plain known in whispers as the Throne of Ash. Once it had been the heart of an empire. Now only pillars of black stone remained, rising like broken teeth from the earth. The wind carried the faint scent of smoke. What is this place? Mira asked. Kaelin's voice was low. Where the last flame-bearer fell. She felt a shiver run through her. The one who burned the world? He nodded. Her death ended an age. Her throne still waits for whoever dares to claim it. Mira walked forward slowly, the dust swirling around her feet. Every step felt heavy but not with fear, with memory. As if the land itself recognized her. When she reached the center, a faint circle of light bloomed beneath her boots. Runes ignited across the ground, spiraling outward like veins of fire. The air thickened, humming with energy. Mira, Kaelin warned, but she didn't stop. The light rose, curling around her like ribbons of flame. Her cloak lifted, her hair flowing as if in a wind that came from nowhere. And then she heard them again, the voices. But this time they weren't whispers. They were clear. Healer of death, bearer of dawn. The world bends to your breath. The balance breaks for your word. Her pulse quickened. The power inside her chest responded, spreading warmth through her veins. I don't want to destroy anything, she whispered. Then build. The fire brightened, then collapsed inward, flooding into her body until her vision turned white. When the light faded, she was standing on the crater's edge again, but she was different. Her mark no longer glowed silver. It shone gold threaded with black, alive with movement. She felt lighter yet infinite. The flame was no longer something separate. It was her. Kaelin stepped forward, all written across his face. Mira. She turned, her eyes reflecting the same molten light. It's not a curse, she said softly. It's a crown. They rested as dusk fell, though neither truly slept. The wind carried distant howls, but none dared approach. Even the wild beast sensed what had changed. Mira sat by the fire, her hands resting over the mark that pulsed calmly now, like a heartbeat in rhythm with the world itself. I feel them still, she said quietly. The souls. The ones I healed. They're at peace. Kaelin nodded, watching her. Because you gave them balance. She looked at him, eyes gleaming in the firelight. The oracle was right. The flame isn't meant to save or destroy, it's meant to choose. Choose what? Whether the world deserves to begin again. Kaelin's expression hardened. You're not a god, Mira. No, she said softly. But I am something the gods left behind. He studied her for a long time. Then what will you do? She looked at the horizon where faint red light still glowed beneath the snow. When the devourer comes, I won't run. I'll meet it head on. Kaelin's voice was almost a whisper. And if it kills you? Then it kills the last bridge, she said. And the world falls with me. The storm came at dusk, a wall of black clouds rolling across the plains. The wind howled with a sound like grief. Kaelin and Mira stood beneath the last standing arch of the ruined throne, the fire between them struggling against the cold. They both knew what was coming. The devourer's awakening had spread cracks across the realm. Packs were vanishing. The sky itself bled faint streams of darkness. And somewhere to the south, the High Council was marching with an army of silver and flame to seize Mira before the world ended. Kaelin broke the silence first. They're coming tonight. Mira nodded. I know. They think they can cage the flame again. Use it to seal the void. Her voice was calm. They can't. The flame doesn't belong to them anymore. Then who does it belong to? She looked up, her eyes glowing faintly. To balance. To whoever can bear it without breaking. He was quiet for a moment, then said, You're not alone in this fight. I know, she said softly. But this path, the one that ends the devourer, it's mine to walk. He took a step closer. You don't get to decide that for me. Kaelin. He reached out and gently took her hand. You changed me, Mira. Whatever I was before you found me, I'm not that man anymore. If the world ends tonight, I want to face it beside you. Her heart tightened. You don't owe me that. It's not debt, he said. It's choice. For a moment she couldn't speak. The wind whipped through the archway, scattering ash and snow. Then Kaelin did something that startled her more than any prophecy ever could. He went down on one knee. Not in defeat but in devotion. His voice was steady, though thick with emotion. I knelt once before the council to beg for my people's lives. I won't kneel for them again. I kneel now for you, not because you're my fate, but because you're the only light left in this ruin of a world. Mira's breath caught. Kaelin, don't. He looked up, his eyes shining silver. If the flame is a crown, then let it burn for something that matters. For mercy. For hope. For us. For the first time since the bond had formed, Mira felt it not as a burden but as a promise. The power inside her stirred gently, not demanding, not devouring, listening. She knelt too, facing him. The air between them shimmered with faint gold light. You once said the bond was balance, she said. Maybe that's what this is. Two sides of the same power, he murmured. Neither ruling, neither bowing. Equal. He nodded. Equal. Their marks glowed in unison, light weaving between their hands like threads of dawn. Outside the storm broke. Lightning struck the plains, splitting the horizon in two. And from that split, a shadow began to rise, vast and formless, stretching across the sky. The devourer had come. Mira stood, her cloak snapping in the wind. It's time. Kaelin rose beside her, drawing his blade, now rimmed in faint silver fire. Whatever happens, he said, don't hold back. She smiled, a fierce, quiet smile. I stopped holding back the day I met you. They stepped into the storm together, the wind howling around them like the breath of the gods. Behind them, the ruins blazed with silver and gold light as if the world itself recognized its last defenders. The flame and the dire blood, no longer cursed, no longer hunted, walked side by side into the end. And when the lightning struck again, the sky itself bowed. The night sky split apart. Light and shadow bled together above the plains, twisting into a vast spiral that pulsed like a wounded heart. The wind roared, lifting shards of earth into the air. Every tree bent. Every stone trembled. The devourer had come. Mira stood at the center of the storm, her cloak snapping like a banner. The flame within her pulsed in answer, its glow no longer soft but fierce, gold and black, fire and void entwined. Kalen stood beside her, his blade gleaming faintly with the silver fire of their bond. His breath came in slow, measured draws, though his eyes, silver and storm-bright, betrayed the tension beneath. "Are you ready?" he asked. "No," she said. "But that's never stopped me before." A crack of thunder tore through the air, and from the vortex above descended something immense. Not a creature but a force given shape. It had no true form, only eyes like suns drowning in shadow, and a voice that shook the bones of the world. "Healer of death," it said, its words echoing through every living thing. "You were meant to close the gate, not open it." Myra's heart pounded. "I didn't open anything. You breathed life where death was owed. You bridged what was never meant to meet. For that, the world must be remade. I won't let you destroy it. You cannot stop the end," the devourer thundered. "You are part of it." The ground cracked, and from the fissures rose figures made of shadow, echoes of wolves, spirits of those long gone, twisted into hollow beasts. Their eyes glowed gold. Their growls shook the air. Kalen stepped forward, blade raised. "Then we unmake your end." The first wave struck. The shadow wolves lunged with impossible speed. Kalen met them head-on, his sword a streak of silver through the dark. Every strike shattered one into ash, but more poured forth, endless, relentless. Mira lifted her hands and the flame erupted from her palms, sweeping in wide arcs. The fire burned without smoke, consuming darkness itself. Still, the devourer's laughter rolled through the storm. "You burn what is already dead. You heal what cannot be saved. You fight the tide with your hands." Her power faltered for a heartbeat. The flame's light dimmed, the air growing cold. For an instant she felt it, the truth behind its voice. Every life she had saved had tilted the balance. Every act of mercy a thread pulled loose from the world's weave. "Mira!" Kalen's shout cut through her thoughts. He fought to reach her, his armor cracked, his breath ragged. "Don't listen to it." "I changed the balance," she said. "I did this." "You gave people hope," he countered. "That's not destruction." The devourer's shadow grew larger, the sky itself bending around its presence. "Hope is a lie told to dying worlds." Mira clenched her fists. "Then let this lie burn brighter than truth." She pressed her palms to the ground. Light exploded outward, tearing through the plains like dawn itself. The shadow beasts disintegrated, their ashes scattering into the wind. The storm faltered, but not for long. From the vortex above, the devourer descended fully. Its form towered over mountains, a shape of endless hunger. And in its heart, beating faintly, was something Mira recognized. A reflection of her own flame. Kalen saw it too. "It's part of you." "No," she whispered. "It's what was taken from me." The devourer's voice rumbled low, almost amused. "Last you see. We are not enemies, little flame. We are halves of the same fire. Give me what you stole and peace will return." Myra's mind spun. The flame pulsed within her, drawn to the vast shadow before her. It wanted to merge, to complete itself. She felt it pulling at her ribs, urging her forward. Kalen's hand caught hers. "Don't," he said. "It's calling to me," she said, her voice trembling. "If I fight it, the world breaks. If I let it in, I vanish. There has to be another way." She looked up at him, her eyes glowing faint gold. "There isn't always another way, Kalen. Sometimes the bridge has to burn." He tightened his grip. "Then I burn with you." The devourer's roar split the air, a sound that shook the stars. The earth cracked beneath them, swallowing light and life. Mira drew in a single breath and stepped into the storm. The world dissolved into light. Myra's body felt weightless, her senses unbound. She stood in the center of everything. Flame, void, stars. The place where beginnings and endings were the same. Around her, the devourer's presence loomed, vast and consuming, but for the first time she saw it not as a monster but as what it truly was. A wound. A hunger born of imbalance. It wasn't evil. It was the echo of every death unhealed, every soul that had been left behind. The other half of her power. She lifted her hand and the flame within her responded, wrapping her in radiance. "You were never my enemy," she said softly. "You were the price." The devourer's voice shook the void. You cannot bear the weight of both worlds. Watch me. She spread her arms wide and the flame surged outward, clashing with the shadow. Light met darkness and for a moment they were one. Not fighting, not destroying, but remembering. Every soul Mira had ever healed flickered before her eyes. Fessus, her pack, the countless spirits of the fallen. Their warmth filled her chest. We are with you, they whispered. Bridge of dawn. Healer of death. Myra's tears burned as they fell. Then let it end where it began. The light flared brighter. The shadows screamed, twisting, unraveling into threads that melted into the radiance. For an endless heartbeat there was nothing but silence and then a voice. Mira. She turned. Kalen was there, his body half consumed by fire and light, reaching for her. His eyes, silver and fierce, found hers across the chaos. You said there was no other way, he shouted. But there is, us. Her heart broke and healed all at once. If you stay you'll die. Then I'll die where you stand. He stepped closer through fire and ruin. Every step burned but he didn't stop. When he reached her he grasped her hand, their marks glowing the same gold-black light. The flame between them pulsed once, then steadied. And in that instant Mira understood. It wasn't about balance between light and dark. It was about choice. About will. About refusing to let either side claim dominion. She was not the end or the beginning. She was the bridge that refused to break. She looked up at the devourer, now flickering, its edges dissolving into mist. You wanted a world of silence, she said. I choose a world that remembers. Then she pulled Kalen close and whispered, hold on. The flame burst from them both, flooding the void. The devourer's roar faded into nothing. The light collapsed inward, and the world was remade. Mira woke to sunlight. Soft, warm. She was lying in a field of wildflowers that stretched to the horizon. The sky was clear, blue as new glass. For a moment she thought she was dreaming, until she heard the steady rhythm of breath beside her. Kalen lay next to her, his armor scorched, his hair dusted with ash. But he was alive. She touched his shoulder gently. His eyes opened, silver flickering to gray. We made it, he asked, voice hoarse. She smiled through her tears. We did. They sat in silence for a while, watching the wind move through the flowers. The world around them was different, softer. The air hummed with quiet energy like the earth itself was healing. Finally Kalen said, the devourer? Gone, she said. Or sleeping. The worlds are one now, balanced. He studied her. And you? She looked down at her hands. The mark on her wrist was gone. In its place was a faint ring of light, like a scar that shimmered when she moved. I'm still here, she said simply. But I think I left part of me behind. He reached over, taking her hand. Then we'll find what's left, together. Mira smiled faintly. You always say that. Because it's always true. A soft breeze passed between them. In it, faint whispers lingered, not of fear but of peace. The voices of the souls she had healed were quiet at last. The bridge had done its duty. Kalen turned to her, eyes searching. What happens now? She looked at the horizon. The mountains in the distance glowed faint gold, like the dawn of a world reborn. Now, she said softly, we live. For as long as the world remembers us. He nodded and together they rose. As they walked into the morning light, their footsteps left faint trails of silver that shimmered and then vanished. Not as marks of gods, but of people who had chosen balance over power, love over fear and hope over despair. And far above them, unseen but felt, the flame burned quietly, no longer a weapon, no longer a curse but a promise. Every ending sparks another beginning. So if Mira and Kalen's journey set your heart racing, howl with me in the comments, hit subscribe and ring the bell, because the next story may change everything you thought you knew about love, power and fate.